Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to yet another deck profile. Lots and lots of deck profiles this week, but lots of info to cover from all the tournaments that went on. So we're here with Jimmy. Jimmy, how you doing, man? And talk about your weekend and how you performed.
Hey, what's up, Joey? Yeah, man, it was a good time. We played in the Virginia Beach Comic Kings event. I was able to take Vegeks to the top 4, so I was pretty stoked about that. It's been a while since we could play in person because of COVID, so it was just it was great.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy you wanted to do the deck profile because, Vegeks, obviously, Bibbidi Nerf, all this stuff. I do want to know, how the deck is doing with all that stuff. So what made you want to take this deck, even considering the nerf?
I think it's the best aggro deck to take right now. It can hit a lot faster than other aggro decks in the format, and it has a lot more versatility and options that you have in black. In our testing, it just had the best spread from what we were looking at and what we were expecting to see at the tournament. And I've also been on the deck pretty much since it dropped, so I'm just the most familiar with this as well.
Yeah, so Vegeks does seem really, really strong still going forward. I am interested to see how you worked around the nerf, so we'll see that in the main deck. So, of course, just 4 of all your stuff you're going to play in a Vegeks deck, and this is really one of the reasons why Vegeks is so strong, because all these cards, which there's 16 of them, basically give you free value if they're milled, But here's a question I have. So, like Supreme Kai of Time, for example, this card in tandem with Bibbidi was like a really big aggressive tool, but now that you don't have Bibbidi, how do you make up that aggression that you lose from that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a lot of what came out in set 11 really helped. The deck turned into a way that, okay, I mill 5 and we have these overrealm 6s that dropped. So now I can kind of make up for that aggression by getting more attacks in and also more significant attacks with the Kai. Especially with green running rampant. If it makes it through a turn where they don't dormant, it just gets comboed off immediately. We're just trying to push those attacks bigger.
Okay, that makes sense. And I do remember this actually being a more overrealm centric build as well, which I definitely want to talk about that when we get to those cards. But besides that, we're still playing the main engine that Vegeks has been playing for a long time: the 4 Trunks, 3 Vegeta Reluctant Reinforcements, and the three Splintering Mines. So this engine still very good. I think when people look at like the other black leaders that came out, like SS4 Goku and SS4 Gohan, they kind of try to put this stuff in there, like and time agents as well. But I mean, Vegeks just seems like the best leader for it. So I don't know. Did you ever try any of the new black leaders, or was Vegeks just always the one for you?
Yeah, no, I looked at them. I just don't think there's anything as strong as Mill 5.
Right.
So it just felt like just a weaker version of Vegeks. I mean, if it gets nerfed further, then I think there's other good black leaders out there that you can look into. But now this Vegeks is really just the main one we looked into because that Mill 5.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so with Overwhelm and Vegeks, it's always been in such a way that you either want to do it on like turn 1 or turn 2, and obviously Trunks is your turn 1, turn 2 Overwhelm. But how do you parse that ground of like overwhelming later on versus wanting to keep your drop there for the Sparking 20? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really matchup dependent, and it's also game flow dependent. The deck is definitely RNG based. You don't know when you're going to hit the mills that you're going to hit. But I mean, there's games where if you hit early, you can just go. I mean, there is a game I finished against green on turn 2. So you can just go so aggressive with the deck. So at that point, it didn't matter. I'm overwhelming. I overwhelmed turn 1 and I overwhelmed turn 2. But yeah, you have to know the game script. Like if you're playing Sin Shimron, that game's going long. If you overwhelm late, you're going to deck out and lose.
Okay, very cool. It seems like this deck is definitely rewarding you for knowing the matchups, which is definitely a really solid thing to do going into a tournament like this. So the super combo lineup, very cool. I've talked a lot about this, where I think Vegeta just pretty much replaces Bibbidi because of the cycle it offers. But you're playing 2 Trunks and 2 Vegeta. Is that mostly just for like the names and the warp for fusion, or is there another reason why you're doing that?
Yeah, so it definitely helps with the fusion to get 2 more Trunks there. The other thing that's really nice is I was a little worried about decks like AOD that could aggress me back just as much as I'm pushing them.
Okay.
Sometimes that can really mess up the play going into your Mass Saiyan, the 4-drop, because if your life gets too low, you really don't want to work those 2 if you can't kill them, because you just die on the crackback. So that really helped to get out of those early attacks. It didn't really come up much in the tournament because I didn't see a whole lot of that. but I wanted to be prepared for that because just not having my super combo at 6 life, or if they're trying to push me from 5 to 3 and I can't do anything about it, just felt terrible.
Yeah, no, that's really cool actually, because I didn't actually think about this before this video, but like your turn one, basically you turn on Temporal Rescue Trunks, which is actually pretty cool because of the Sparking 5. So that is pretty neat there. And then the 2 Fu mission accomplished. So I definitely like this number because it seems like Fu mission accomplished is not as great as it was without Bibbidi. I mean, you can grab back things that you mill, like you can grab back your regular super combos, you can grab back your Vegeks fusion pieces, whatever you need. But yeah, was 2 the right number for you with the changes and whatnot?
Yeah, I'd say 2 is perfect. Like you said, it's definitely not as strong without being able to grab Bibbidi back, but there's still targets that you want to hit, and 2, you just want to do things with your energy. There's times, because it plays so many free cards, that if you don't play Fu, you're just not being efficient with your plays. Because we tried to play the new tournament pack promo that's kind of like Fu. It's the Overrealm 6, where you add one. It has the same effect as Fu, just Overrealm 6, and it's a 30k.
Yeah, the SS4 Goku, right?
Yep, SS4 Goku. So we tested that, and it just felt awful because I had it when I didn't want to overwhelm in certain matchups, and it clogged the deck with too many overwhelms. And if I just had the 2 for Fu, I'd much rather just pay the 2, get whatever card I want. I can grab, a big threat. I can grab a super combo, whatever I need. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The Fu seems like it can be great in a lot of scenarios for sure. All right, so moving on, we have the 4 Majin Buu Wicked Incarnate. It's one of the best turn 1 plays, I think, when you're not able to get into the trunks. 4 Hachiyak, Hatred Everlasting. So this is a card that I've seen people play at 1. It's a card I've seen people not play at all. And without the Anti-Laza U3, it seemed like it lost a little bit of playability in the deck. So what brought you to play 4 copies, and was it really that good?
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. One, I play a 60 card list. Most of my builds have always had 3 to 4 of it, just for consistency. When you don't hit when you need to, it feels really bad, but at least if you pull a hatch, you have 2 more opportunities to hit that Gotenks Unison or that Vegeta that you need. And a lot of times it works out because now I'm milling 7 off the top instead of 5.
Right.
So that always feels really good. And then it never came up, the playability, the tap 3, it never came up in this tournament. In the past few tournaments I've played, it did become relevant to help clear like tokens or just annoying cards to get out of the way. So I wouldn't say that's as relevant, but yeah, just the consistency of hatch felt really good. So we kept it at 4, and the winter hatch just looks so nice. And
it does.
I picked up a set from Eden, thankfully, and I was like, I gotta play this card.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, and it goes what you were saying before with Fu Mission Accomplished, like just being energy efficient. If there's a turn where you need to use 3 energy, I mean, this is in your drop area, and it's a pretty beefy battle card, so it seems pretty good.
Yeah, and actually the only other thing too with that is we'll get into the sideboard later, but one of the sideboard cards requires 3 and drop. So if I warp for turn and I need to have 1 up for my sideboard card, that hatch puts that sideboard card live.
Very cool. And then the SS3 Tag Team Gohan, we're playing a decent amount of over on this deck, which we will get to in just a second. But we are playing the 3-3 Vegeks lineup here. And yeah, 3-3 has pretty much become the standard. I think this can run into issues sometimes when you're up against like blue, for instance, or maybe like green, where their counterplays actually hurt these cards a lot. But is this like another matchup dependent thing where it's like you maybe don't play it against blue and green, or do you kind of try and jam it whenever you see it?
Yeah, you just you gotta know what the matchup is and where you are in the game. Sometimes you just want to play into the counterplay just to get rid of it if you have other threats to play as well, because eventually something's going to hit. They can only do that one time, and you have the potential to play so many cards in a turn. Sometimes it's nice too just to bait it out, like I think at one point someone had countered my 6 drop, but I still have 1 up for my Mass Saiyan, so I was like, perfect, there goes the Mass Saiyan, swing, and that's game.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad either, because when you play the Vegeks, actually you get a card back, so you're not actually losing. Like, you're losing, I guess, a 3 energy investment, but you are getting a card back, which definitely is not a bad thing.
Yeah, it fills the drop too with the Trunks and the Vegeta, so that's nice too to get your drop count back up.
For sure. All right, so now here we go with the heavy overwhelm lineup. Man, as much as we talked about it, I probably should have put it earlier on in the video. But anyways, we have 3 man on a mission, we have 1 creator absorbed, and 2 secret identities. So obviously this is a very overwhelm heavy list. So what are some of the matchups where like you'll be very overwhelm centric, you know, and just try and end the game as quickly as possible, I guess, because these cards seem like they allow you to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, man on a mission was the MVP, man. It was so good. That was, I think I had 2 turn 2 kills, and both of them were because of that card. And I guess people are used to the old Vegeks, and they just thought, okay, like they probably sequenced out how they thought my turn would go and planning for it. And then it was just, you drop that Goku and it hits so hard. As far as matchup based, I would say 1, if your hand allows you to present game early, you just go for it. A lot of decks just can't keep up. And then 2, if a green deck doesn't dormant, you just go in. If you can go in without a dormant, you just go.
Okay. And then the creator absorb. So you are playing 2 Champa in the list, so obviously Mira and Champa go hand in hand together. But with all the counterplays out right now, like Frieza charismatic villain and certain things like that, like was this card as effective as one might think?
No, it was awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't play it one time. It just never came up. There were times where I could have fooed it back, and it just felt awful to have to invest 2 energy for the Fu, 1 for the Mira, 1 for the FDC. It was clucky and didn't work. It was funny though, because pre-set 11 when I was playing the deck, it was great. I actually won every single game with that card in the last tournament I was in, but this one, yeah, set 11, it didn't feel very good.
Interesting. And then the Identity Mass Hand, of course, allows you to get some removal. The 4 Power Burst, the 2 Champa, definitely some standard stuff. And I'll just let you walk us through the side deck.
Yeah, so Max Power was definitely the card to side, I think, this weekend. With everyone on Go Tanks. It just warps that 6-drop, which is really nice. Also, Sin Shenron is one of the toughest matchups. So if you can warp their blocker, that always feels really good too. But there's just a ton of threats that people are playing above energy. So having 4 max power with a deck that doesn't have a whole lot of removal, felt really good. Protector of the People was there just for your go wide aggro matchups. We thought we would see some AOD there, so we wanted to be ready for that. Black Mass Saiyan, the 1-drop, didn't really come up. I didn't see any blue, so it was really just there to hopefully, if the game was going long, to put them off at Booney, but I really didn't see it. And in games where it could have been effective, I mean, if you're playing green, they have Dormant, it just dies really quick, so that card didn't come up much. Rebellion Hammer, that was a last-second ad, actually. Before, it was actually Koitsukai, and we went off Koitsukai because we thought it would be good against Baby, but it honestly just did not do enough to Baby to help the matchup at all. It's just pretty miserable for Vegeks, so I would rather have the Rebellion Hammer, where if they try and negate, I can just stop that negate altogether. You can stop the Topo, you can stop the Gohan negate.
Right.
So that was the thought process. I never actually sided it in. It never came up. But we thought that would be better over Koitsukai. The Vegeks, that was there again for just your go wide matchups. It again didn't come up. And then the SCR, that was there for, honestly, to really help with Sin Shenron. Sin Shenron is such a tough matchup, and I knew I would see it there, that I wanted to side it in, and I did see it. The matchup, unfortunately, I milled the balls both times, so never got to use them, but it feels pretty good in that matchup.
Gotcha. Not quite the way you want to see that card. But anyway, it's still a very successful weekend, Jimmy. Any final shout-outs you want to get out there?
Yeah, man. Shout out to my team, TCG Mafia. It's just a local team here in Virginia Beach. We just started up a podcast called Hermit Style Podcast, so I'm excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're doing a weekly episode, so that's pretty cool. And but yeah, just shout out to them. They put in a lot of time testing with me and helped me get all my matchups right. So yeah, shout out to them.
Awesome. I just learned about the podcast, so actually I'll have Jimmy send it to me. I'll put it in the description of this video if you want to check it out. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Sweet. Thanks, Joey.